Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar on the TD pilot with a focus on neurodegenerative users. So we'll just do a bit of very brief background about the TD pilot as a device. Amy's already done an intro webinar on this, so we won't spend too much time here.
Do you want to turn your video on, Lauren? And I'll turn mine off.
Sure, let's do that. Oh, to find out how to do that now.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. Where are my Zoom controls?
Just so they can see your lovely face.
Of course. I just wish I could find it. Hang on. I might have to stop the share. Oh no, there it is. I found it. Oh, I cannot start my video because my
oh well. You can't see Lauren.
Sorry.
Oh, it's early in the morning in WA. All right, you continue on.
All righty, here we go. Okay. Can everyone still see the screen?
Yep, I can. You're good.
Okay, cool. Okay, so Tobii Dynavox has worked with Apple for a long time to support them in integrating eye gaze in their assistive touch functionality. So assistive touch has been around for a while, but they worked together to create an MFI approved eye tracker, which is MFI just means made for iPad. So it gives the best total experience for that. So who is TD Pilot designed for? So all in all, it is a product that caters to users that clearly identify as an iOS user first, and then an AAC user second. So it's really for people who are Apple OS users from the start. And so today we'll be talking about that and how that can work for people with neurodegenerative conditions in particular. So Tobii Dynavox are providing a limited portfolio of custom-made apps that will come with the TD pilot. But of course, the device also then gives access to the plethora that can be found in the App Store. So all of the apps that are available in the App Store under that person's Apple ID are accessible as well. So from top to bottom, in terms of what comes on with the device, there's TD Talk, TD Snap, TD Copilot, and Apple's Assistive Touch application. And we'll touch on each of these and how they relate to people with neurodegenerative conditions. Starting with TD Talk. So what we might do is Amy might do a bit of a demo on her end, and I will just talk through some of the features as we're doing that. So Amy, if I stop sharing my screen, can you then share your TD Pilot screen?
I can. Here we go. Here we go. It's just linking up. There we go. Here we are. TD Talk.
Fabulous. Okay. So basically the way that Tobii Dynavox wanted to design TD Talk is for it to have a very easy and familiar design. So people who are using it can just very quickly open it up and just start using it straight away. I think what has happened in the past is that AAC tends to appear quite complicated and people can get a bit overwhelmed, but it really does look like a keyboard. And so it's for people who are used to using a keyboard, and so they're familiar with the layout from the start. They also found that there's only a few features that are required required further explanation for use. So it's quite simple in its general layout. There's easy navigation, so very easy to locate quick messages and the quick messages page. So we might just get Amy to show the quick messages up the top.
Goodbye. And then you've got phrases here.
Yeah, so there's a page for a few phrases.
Coffee.
And the phrases are customizable, of course, but there are only 9 that are available on that page. And there is a reason for that. I will go into that a little bit later on. But in terms of, just accessing those features. So that was the quick messages page. And then if we jump back, there's the language switching page, where it's very easy to switch languages if you're a multilingual user. I think that was something that Tobii Dynavox wanted to focus on.
This is where it would be. Keyboards. Yeah.
Down the bottom. And then there's also very easy to switch to the numbers page. Again, that's embedded within the keyboard in the top right. So everything's there on the main screen. It's got, it's largely a flat navigational strategy, with the exception of the off-screen menu. So there is the option to bring up an off-screen menu if you look down below the eye tracker, as Amy's just done. And when you're there, you can look at settings. You can turn the eye tracker on and off so that it can pause and play. And you can also jump out of TD Talk and back into the iOS environment using the Assistive Touch menu. So there's lots of options for that and the way that that works. And Amy's demonstrating very smoothly how,
Thank you, Lauren.
to get in and out of those things. So yeah, that's just some of the additional features that you can access with that. And some of you have probably seen, a lot of you have probably seen the off-screen menu in some of our other Tobii devices as well. So then if we're looking back at the main page and we're thinking about eye travel, I guess they wanted to make it easy in terms of reducing the amount of travel that you need to do. So some of the ways that they did that is from the keyboard, the message window is just above it rather than having to travel all the way up to the top of the screen, as you might have seen in other systems. So again, it just reduces the travel that they need to do to get to the message window. The message window itself also expands, so it will expand to show up to 5 lines of text. So if you're writing quite a large message, the expansion just means that the person can see and review their message without needing to scroll. So that's a really nice feature as well. The speak button is within the message window, so that again reduces eye travel.
Doing well.
Because again, it's right there. So you're looking, you review your message, and then you just look a little off to the side to speak. The delete word and backspace buttons are in the keyboard, which is great, but they're not next to each other. So that avoids that accidental selection. So they're actually on opposite sides of the keyboard. And the clear all button is completely outside of the message window. Again, just to avoid accidental selection at that time when the person is typing. So in terms of communication being easy and fast, that was definitely part of the goal of Tobii Dynavox when they were making TD Talk. So if we're thinking about communication, obviously it's still an AAC system, so it's still going to be slower than the way that we speak. So generally we speak 150 to 180 words per minute. The average person types at about 40 words per minute, and the average eye gaze user will type between 10 and 20 words per minute. So it's still going to be slow, but TD Talk definitely is designed to be one of the faster options. I'm just going to go through some of the other features as well while we've still got Amy on the demo. So if we're thinking about the quick messages section, Tobii Dynavox decided to explore what people needed these messages for, as well as the optimal and maximal number of hits for each of the communication functions. And they actually found that people wanted these messages to call for immediate attention or a request, as a floor holder or a placeholder, or to answer questions. And they really wanted that to be within 1 hit or within a maximum of 2. And so you can see that the 4 messages at the top, if we go back to the main page, Amy, the 4 quick messages that are there, they were designed, actually they're different, they might have been edited, but it was the original was like yes, no, please wait, I'm typing. And so they're sort of placeholders or question answers, and I guess they were designed so that people are able to say in the middle. So if they're typing a message and they get asked a question, they can very easily answer that question without it impeding what they've typed. And that's another reason why those quick messages don't go into the message window and don't go into the partner window, because it's not then going to disrupt the message that the person is constructing or typing out. So that's something to keep in mind with those. But then, yeah, so there's those 4 customizable messages on the main keyboard, and then the ones that are in the actual folder. And there are 9 of those, and they're fully customizable depending on what the person wants to be able to say. So that was limited. I think they limited it to 9 just because they'd done some research and they found that people generally don't use a lot of saved phrases. There's kind of maybe 8 or 9 main phrases that they use. And so that's why it was designed in that way.
I think, Lauren, one of the other really cool things is that it's all eye gaze accessible. So everything I'm showing you, I'm using eye control, not using touch screens. So the user themselves can edit all their phrases, which I think is so important for this population of neurodegenerative conditions, is that they've got control and are able to edit and change without the reliance on a communication partner. So yeah.
And they're spread out as well, which makes it easier for eye gaze access. And yeah, definitely. So then if we go into looking at word and phrase prediction, so there are, if we go back to the main keyboard, there are the 4 prediction buttons that you can see just in the top part of the keyboard there. And again, it's placed there because that's generally where it would be placed on any other device, on a phone, or when you're texting, that's where it will be. So again, quick visual scanning for those. And then if we're looking at phrase prediction, they found that, I guess historically in AAC, people needed to read several messages of varying lengths, which takes a lot of time to select the desired option. So what Tobii Dynavox have tried to do is a single prediction that's offered in the message window in grey text. And that prediction is actually based on some algorithms that they've done to identify the sets of words that are typically produced by that user. So it's not based on phrases that people generally use in society. It's about that person and how they communicate. So that's a really nice feature. It just makes it easier. And again, it's in the message window, so it's very quick for them to access that phrase when it appears. And if it's not the right thing, they just keep typing until it comes up.
Yeah, so I typed in MY with a space, and I've written my name is Amy. I think I did it 3 times, Lauren. Is that what we did the other day?
Yeah,
and it's already predicting it. So I've got a light grey, and then if that's the phrase I want, I just look towards the end of the sentence and it will pop it in as a whole phrase.
Yeah, so that's quite nice. And again, if you're thinking about efficiency, that's definitely a nice feature. One of the other things is error correction and editing. So if the person spells something wrong or they've made an error in their typing, it's quite easy to edit that. So Amy might just demonstrate how that works. I think if you type out the word and then you look at it, it will underline it. And then you can use the directional arrows to choose where you want to go in that word, and whether you want to do a backspace or retype something different.
And you can do that at a sentence level as well.
Yeah. And you would have seen, I don't know if you did see, but the message, the speak message button was deactivated while she was editing, so that you can't, the person's not going to speak an incorrect message or an edited message as they're going. Amy's playing with editing now.
Trying to show you.
Yeah, but it's like you can see, like it's so quick.
Yeah, and you're kind of not having to navigate folders to find these phrases. I'm finding it quite quick to go to start it off and then type away rather than navigate through layers of folders.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So then also, if we're thinking about fast production, there's also alternative dwell times that you can access as well in the settings. So again, you can look at different dwell times for the keyboard settings. I think, if you go into, so keyboard, different options there. So you can change it for the individual buttons or for predictions, and that can be different. So that's quite nice as well, depending on the preference for the person. And then in terms of the hardware, there is the partner window. And I mentioned earlier that some of the messages, so the quick messages won't go into the partner window because it's designed to not disrupt what the person might be if they're in the middle of typing out a phrase or a sentence. But of course, great to have the partner window there as a way to facilitate when there's a loud environment, or if they're speaking to an unfamiliar listener, just to supplement that as well. We looked at the languages very briefly But if I just come back to that, so I think, yeah, Tobii Dynavox are trying to design TD Talk for AAC users that might be multilingual. So I think there's the option to have as many as 6 languages available in the language switching page.
Keyboard.
Yeah, I think you can add, yeah.
I can't speak any other language, but if I could, I can download it.
So that's really nice, I guess, in terms of making it a unique voice for the person if they're speaking another language. But I guess something important to note at this point is that voice and message banking is not yet available in TD Talk, but it is available in TD Snap. And so we will talk about that shortly as well as another alternative option for people. But just some quick assessment ideas.
You want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, let's jump back to the slides and then
there you go.
I can make that bigger. Oh, no, I need to share my screen first. There we go. Can you see that? So we sort of recommend, I guess, the first time that you put TD Talk in front of a user, best to use the quick messages page, especially if they've never used iGaze before. Like if iGaze is very new to them as an access method, starting on the quick messages page is probably a good idea just because it's fewer options, they're further apart. And as we mentioned before, it's sort of designed for that, easy editing and that sort of thing. So it might give them a bit more of an opportunity to learn how to use their eyes to make selections. And then I guess, you can switch. When you do switch to the keyboard, you could consider making the dwell time a little bit longer for letter selection and predictions so that they get a real good go at making selections with their eyes. So just a couple of tips that we thought we might share there. And there's the TD Talk and Assistive Touch training cards. These are very, very valuable and definitely worth referring to, I guess, to promote successful use of the app and how it can work well with Assistive Touch. So do have a look at those. You can access those on the Tobii Dynavox website. So we'll jump into talking about TD Snap, particularly looking at the text page set within TD Snap, just as another alternative to TD Talk, if that's not the most appropriate option. So I'll just do a very basic description and then we might jump across to Amy and she can show us how that works as well. So it's designed for literate individuals who don't use symbols to communicate, allows you to save phrases for efficient communication, similar to TD Talk, but of course more phrases in here. So you can see quick fires, there's heaps of options and there's also a phrases folder. Easy for the user to save new messages for future use. There is also a choice of keyboard options within that as well. So in TD Talk, it's just a QWERTY keyboard, but you've got some other options in TD Snap. It has word prediction similar to TD Talk and some editing tools embedded in the keyboard. And there are also some pre-made pages for easy access to smart assistants like Google Home or Alexa. So we can have a look at that shortly. Amy, did you want to jump across and do another demo for Snap?
Yep, sure can. Bear with me. So this is TD Snap text. Lots of people know it for Core First, but this is a really nice text-based page set. So this is the home page.
I need help.
Lauren, are there particular things you'd like to look at?
I guess just focusing on some of the features that TD Talk doesn't have. So maybe the fact that there are some more phrases in there, maybe looking at some of the smart assistant pages as well.
Yeah, so you can organize your phrases by folders. Really, TD Snap, you can customize to your heart's content. You can change the colors, you can change the font size, you can put multiple layers in, you can put symbols in if you want to. TD Talk really is what it is. The keyboard, 9 quick phrases and those kind of inbuilt phrase prediction features. If you're needing something much more customizable, then TD Snap with text is going to be a better option for you. So phrases, this is going really slowly for me. Emergencies, for example, you might want to add in your phrases and things. Again, it's user accessible. So if there's a phrase you always use, so I'm not breathing well, I don't know, something like that. I'm just going to use my finger for sake of time. I'm not breathing well, and I wanted to save that in my emergencies. As a user, I can copy that to a button really quite quickly. So again, still user accessible. There's a real focus on that, but you've got much more customization within your settings. You can change the page grid size. You can change the style of the background. So if you've got someone who needs larger font than in TD Talk, needs high contrast, you know, maybe their eye control isn't quite accurate enough for a QWERTY keyboard, you've got those options in TD Snap. You've still got a keyboard with your word prediction, not so much phrase prediction and things in this. It's kind of pretty standard word prediction. And then, as Laura mentioned, you've got a notes section. So, you know, often the MND clients I work with prepare messages for health professionals that are coming in, or they could have a notes section. And as Laura mentioned, there's more options around Google Assistants and smart speakers. You've got kind of pre-programmed stuff in there for Alexa, etc. So yeah, it's a much more comprehensive piece of software if you're wanting that fully customization. Yeah. Sorry, go Laura.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, the customization, and as well as, yeah, just being able to access some of the ECU features that are available within the device as well that you won't necessarily have in TD Talk. So yeah, just something else to consider, I guess. Oh, and the other thing with TD Snap is that there is the, you can have message banking as part of that as well. So that's a nice extra feature that, again, is not available in TD Talk. And there is a process for doing that through the My Tobii Dynavox website. There is a link in our slides for how to access that and read through the detailed instructions of how to do that as well, which we might not go through here just for sake of time.
All the slides will be on our website under the recorded webinars if you need them.
Yeah, okay. And so the next thing we were going to talk about, if we're ready to move away from Snap, was to just look at the Assistive Touch menu and how that works. There isn't really much content in the slides, Amy, that's going to be different from your demo. So I'm happy if you just want to, oh, actually, yeah, how to get out of TD Snap as well to get back.
I can show you. So in your dashboard, you select Eye Gaze iOS and you can start Assistive Touch. So what that will do is bring up the menu for Assistive Touch. So you can get in and out of everything yourself.
Yeah. So Assistive Touch menu has been around for a while on iOS systems. I think it's been around for a long time. It was originally designed to support people who needed help with still with touch access, but who might not have been able to scroll or had limited hand function, to kind of give them a bit more usability and access. So then that was then transferred across into making it work well with Eye Gaze. And so you've seen the Assistive Touch button that Amy's shown, it's down in the corner. And that does then bring up a menu. So you've got like a home button and the ability to switch apps. You can look at, different scrolling functions. There's a bunch of customizable settings that you can put in there as well. You can also move the location of the menu. So if where it is in the way of something else, you can just select it and move it and place it elsewhere. So that's quite nice if the person is using it and it's just blocking or in the way of what they're doing. It is a way to also pause and resume your dwell, so that if the person wants to view a video on YouTube, for example, and they don't want to keep pausing and playing the video while they're looking at it, you can pause the dwell and that's then not going to activate anything on the screen. You can also change the color. So it's red on Amy's at the moment, but you can make that clear and transparent. So it's hidden and not very, so it's not sort of standing out, but that's actually within the separate settings in the eye gaze, sorry, not the eye gaze, in the assistive touch menu settings. So there's a whole bunch of extra settings. There's quite a bit, I guess, to learn with the way that that works. If we go into accessibility and touch, I think.
Thanks, sorry.
Yeah, and that's right. And then assistive touch at the top.
This is all in the training cards, by the way.
Yeah. There's training cards that actually describe all of the assistive touch settings. So yeah, do go through those, but just so that you can see how much customizability there is. So there's like a little thing there that says idle opacity, so you can reduce or increase that depending on how clear you want it to be or how hidden. And then if we go further down, so many settings.
All right, yeah.
Tracking sensitivity. This is also where you can play with the dwell. So currently it's on a 1 second dwell, but again, you can increase or decrease that. Movement tolerance is very similar to one of the other settings in Copilot, which we'll show you in a minute. That's basically just changing how much tolerance the person has on the screen when they're using their eyes in terms of the movement. So if the person has a lot of movement or they're not very still, increasing the tolerance can be helpful. What else? I think that's pretty much it for that. I think there's just a lot in there. So rather than us going through it all, it's probably best to have a look through the training cards for those and see exactly what you can change. Amy's just having a go at doing the browse.
So what you'll notice is that when I'm on this keyboard, it's not quite as easy. And the reason for that is that TD Talk and TD Snap have what we call region interactions. So wherever you look in that cell, it will snap in to the grid. When you're out using assistive touch, it's not snapping right into the keyboard. And you'll notice that when you have a go, that's what that movement tolerance and sensitivity is all about. So it takes a little bit of playing around to find, that balance between it being really responsive, but also stable. So please, have a bit of a play with those settings with your users, because you'll notice that it's quite a different interaction in assistive touch as it is within the Tobii Dynavox apps. You just have to be a lot more accurate. Do you want to add to that, Lauren?
No, I think that was good. There's a slide on that in the...
As I'm struggling to type, I thought I better explain why.
Yeah. So it almost works like a magnet, I guess. Yeah, and it does, it pulls in the general sort of region around the area that you're looking at, that then makes it so much more easy to use things like a keyboard where the buttons are quite small. That just draws it into it. The next part was talking about the calibration app, which is the TD Copilot. Oh, Amy has a play. No, let's have a play with
Sorry, I was just reading the current news. Let's see how it's moving a bit. Hold on. Where do you want me to go? TD Copilot?
Yep. So
all right, just gotta get out.
Back home.
There you go.
Yay! So this is probably familiar to a lot of you who've used Tobii systems before. So this is your track status that gives you an indication of where the person is sitting. And as Amy moves around, you can see her eyes moving around. The arrow is an indication of how far away or how close you are. So as she moves closer, it moves up. As she moves further away, it moves down. So we want it in the green area, and we want the eyes generally centered as much as possible. But this is also where you can calibrate. Unfortunately, there isn't all that much in the way of customization for the calibration. So you can customize the calibration points in terms of how many points you want but you can't really change it in terms of what the actual calibration target is. So that's going to pretty much look the same. Yeah, what else is in there? There's the accuracy. Oh yeah, we're in that. Oh yeah, you can check the battery. That's quite good. You can check the battery. Yeah, well, I think it's important because there's two batteries. There's the TD Pilot battery and then the actual iPad. So that's always good just to check that. Although, even though there are two batteries, there's only one charging point, which is very handy. And then if you go to the help button there in the settings, and then set up Assistive Touch, that will take you out and take you straight into the iPad settings, and that will then, you can then go into accessibility and where we were before, touch, and then Assistive Touch to be able to play with those settings. So that's just an easy way to get there from Copilot if the user wanted to make some adjustments. Anything else in there that's worth mentioning, Amy?
The user manual.
User manual. Yes.
They've done a really nice job of the user manuals for this device. I think it's pretty intuitive. If I just kind of scroll down, it'll come with a getting started guide and things. So yeah, definitely access the supports to help you out.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's pretty basic settings, really.
Yeah. There is also the Wacom Gaze feature as well that I might mention, because if so it's not going to be Wacom Gaze if the system is off completely, but if it's just in sleep mode and the person then looks at the screen, it will come back on pretty much automatically. So Amy, do you want to demonstrate that?
I don't think I can over Zoom, sorry.
Oh no, that's true, because it'll
unlink me.
Never mind. Okay, but it's
They'll just have to trust us.
They look at it, it comes on, and then they'll be on the home screen. So you can either set it to unlock with Face ID, so you can set that up in the iOS settings.
Ooh,
or if they don't have that. Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yep, so if they don't have that, they do what Amy just did and go to the Assistive Touch menu and then home, and that will take you into your home page. Might just jump back to the slides.
Yeah, let's finish off and then
we'll finish off just with some support materials and then some questions at the end. Let's go share screen. Cool. So as we mentioned already, there's the there is the manual, which we've already looked at, but then there's all these other ones as well that you can access on the website. So TD Pilot with Snap, with TD Talk, and then how to use TD Talk with Assistive Touch together as the training card. So yeah, starter guides, manuals and training cards, lots and lots of support resources there. Just a bit about accessing the TD Pilot through us. So you can request to demo the product through your local Link Assistive team member. And that could be for an individual client or for a team, or it can just be, again, like a chat via Zoom rather than in person. There is the option to do the 3-week loan, which is standard for most of our devices, but just be mindful that the wait list is quite long, especially for TD Pilot at the moment, it's very long. So just be mindful of that. There is the 3 to 6 month paid rental option as well. And those links that are there, if you just click those, and it'll take you straight into the that section on our website that gives you information about how that works. We can do quotes for purchases. The price is listed there. And of course, lots and lots of product support through the Tobii Dynavox website as well. There's also our Assist webinars, which is the one what we're doing today, and what Amy has already done with the intro webinar. And there will be another one coming up shortly for TD Pilot and using that with emergent eye gaze users. Is that next week, Amy?
Yes.
Yeah, next week. And that's pretty much it for content. So I might just stop.
I'll stop the recording and we can